PR Connections Radio presents this episode of the PR Connections podcast is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PR Connections radio show. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am your host. And for those of you who have been following this show, we've been on the air. We started in the radio platform back in 2011, traditional radio, and through the different platforms that we've been on, we've literally been broadcasting this show for the last 14 years. And one of the things that I've enjoyed on my journey in entrepreneurship and the development of media is all the great people that I have met along the way. And I'm going to introduce you to someone today who I was impressed with him back in 2007 when I met him, and he was a really young guy at that time, as he will share in a few minutes. And I'm just as impressed with what he's done as a businessman and as a leader in the community. Please welcome Phil Hoffman. He is the owner of Doctors of Technology, which I believe is one of the best computer stores here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome, Phil, to the PR Connections show.
How you doing?
And so, as I mentioned, I met Phil literally taking my computer in for a repair, and his twin brother, back in 2007, they were new guys in business at that time, right, Phil? And, the way we met was just so typical. Your computer needs to be repaired. I hadn't even started my company yet at that time. Yeah. I just took my computer in to be repaired, and they seemed like just such great young guys, and they were very conscientious, and the relationship formed. I've been doing business with them on and off throughout all this time, and they were just very young guys, twins doing business, which I also thought was unique and kind of a nice twist. The brothers working together, and here they are many years later, 18 years later. Doctors of Technology is still in business. Phil, what made you want to do this at the age of 21, right, is when you started your company?
Yeah. When I graduated high school, I always was intrigued with technology. It's been a passion of mine since I was a kid. So when I graduated high school, I went to college, got my degree in electronic engineering over at DeVry University in Pomona, California. And let me fast forward a little bit. So when I graduated, I got a job. I worked with Geek Squad a long time ago, did all of the work with them, and worked for a couple stores out here in Las Vegas. And then I just saw all the flaws of what they were doing, and just like how they weren't really focusing on the customers. They were just focusing on just generating revenue for Best Buy. So I said, you know what? I walked away from it, stepped back, and I was like, let me really focus in on this. So I got my twin brother, which is funny because my twin brother knows nothing about technology, doesn't know anything how to work a computer, or had no experience with technology. So, but he's my identical twin. We look identical. So I brought him alongside. I said, hey man, I was like, because he has a lot of charisma, enthusiasm. I said, you know what? Let's start a business. Let's go in, and when we sit down, our ideas just flow. Like we are, just nonstop. And we would sit for literally days and days, and we have a big whiteboard. We would just write everything down, just coming up with ideas, how to start the business, a good business name, how we would approach it, where we would get an office to formally start a store, and really just how to get the phone to ring. That's the hardest part of any business, of course, is get the phone to ring. So I got my brother involved with it, and we just sat, and I think it was like the first week I went to Walmart, and I bought one of those poster boards, a hot orange poster board, and I wrote on it computer on the top of it in big letters, and then repair on the bottom of it, and then my phone number. And I had a very easy number. It was 702-277-0000. So I got really blessed having a really good number that was easy to remember. So what we did was I took my brother, at the time I was living in an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment, and I put him on the corner of the road on it was Sahara and Fort Apache, and I had him holding up this sign. It's a computer repair with our phone number on it, and just to test it out. And like within the first like 15-20 minutes, phone's ringing. This is back in 2007. Phone's ringing, and they're like, "Oh, I had computer problems. Can you send somebody out?" So of course I answer the phone. What's the problem you have going on? And of course I'd go do the job. And then it turned out that first day I had 3 jobs. It just, from going back and forth, answering the phone. Of course, it took me about 12 hours to finish all the jobs. But then we got back to the apartment, and I was like, I told Justin, I said, this is really working. Like, just having you out there, But he's telling me, he's like, the sun out there is brutal. I'm going to get burnt. So we winded up that night. We went back to the apartment and got everything else squared away, like a calendar, a digital calendar. We're going to put like on instead of writing everything down, because we're very old fashioned. We write everything down pen and paper. So I developed a calendar on a computer for booking jobs. So then I said, you know what? Justin's like, we'll get somebody out there to hold the sign, and I'll be your basically take care of all the appointment booking. And you just go out there and focus on just getting the jobs and taking care of the customers. So we tried it. So we hired a gentleman, same corner, holding up that same sign, this $5.50 poster board, So we would have him out there for about 6 hours a day. Phone would ring consistently all the time, and mind you, this is during the recession in 2007. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people, when I'd go to their house, their homes, they're poor people. I mean, the community was losing so much money. I mean, I saw people as I was going to their homes, they were literally saying, I can't afford my mortgage anymore. So it's like, it was a little heartbreaking. And here it is, it's like, our phone doesn't stop ringing, just holding a sign up. So I really put thoughts into my head. I was like, okay, this could be a big business to get into. Because everybody has a computer, everybody has a problem. So it's like we live in a technology world. This world is driven off of technology, from our phones to the time you tell to our podcast that we're on. So we basically got to the point where the phone rang so much, and then the job started getting booked so much. So Justin was just like, literally, I need you to do this, I need you to do this, I need you to do this. And I was bringing computers, because sometimes you couldn't fix a computer at the house. I'd have to bring it back to the home. At the time, we didn't have a store or anything opened up. We were literally just living out of a one-bedroom apartment. So it got to a point where I was legitimately bringing computers back to the house to fix them, and I had computers everywhere. And so I wound up taking my furniture out of my master bedroom, threw it in the trash. Went into the dining room and the kitchen, took the table, threw it in the trash. Only thing I had in that one-bedroom apartment was a sofa and a TV. That was it. And everything else was just covered. Like, it was just funny. There was just computers as soon as you walked in to the right to the dining room. Into the master bedroom, which was just a one-bedroom apartment, and where I would sleep, I had a little air mattress so I could sleep. And I had just computers lined up around side of me, just fixing them. And I was literally up till 2 o'clock every morning just fixing computers, and then organizing them all, putting it, Post-its on them, and just trying to, categorize everything. And then it just got to a point where I was like, you know what, we need a bigger boat. So we went to Ribeiro, and we wound up getting a spot over there on Sunset and Eastern, and a much bigger area, of course, plus to be a lot more professional, so we could have our customers come into the store. To make it a lot more professional, as opposed to just always going to them. We can go to them, they could also come to us. So we opened up a store over there, and then I said, you know what, let's get more sign holders out there, instead of having, you take care of this as far as running our advertising and answering the phones. And it got to a point where we literally hired, me and Justin got 4 or 5 people out there we strategically took a map of Las Vegas of zip codes, and we were trying to go by what are the hot corners, the hot times, like, You know, you have Rainbow and Eastern are the arteries of Las Vegas, you know.
Mm.
So we would focus on those routes, and we had a friend that had a pickup truck, and we put people in the back of the truck. We would drop them off on the corners with these beautiful signs. Now they weren't cardboard anymore.
Mm.
We have a sign business that we had, Ryan from Seaside Graphics, great guy, and we basically just had them all over Las Vegas. And a lot of our customers still to this day ask us, you know, like, do you still have those guys in the corners holding the signs? And really, that's what really got our phone to ring and really just push our, you know, get everybody into the store to really trust our brand, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically how everything started. And then, like I said, Justin really took care of all of the customers, answering all the phone calls. It's just funny though, because I always told him, I said, hey, you know what, help if you really wanted to learn computers, we could do this together and really, you know, dive into it. But he had no ambitions of learning how to work a computer or fix a computer. His ambition was just answering a phone and taking care of the customers, which we're identical twins, but he's the yin and I'm the yang. You know, like
Yeah, he's
he's
much more of the outgoing,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, which I thought worked really well, by the way, Phil, that the two of you were smart enough to recognize that your personalities were different, but you made it work, right? I was impressed with that from the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah, he was my rock through everything. I mean, we truly, I couldn't have done any of this without him by my side. We truly learned a lot being with each other and about business, because when you have a partner in business, you truly, whether it's your brother or it's a partner or a friend or anything, or you know, somebody you just met, when you put somebody in business, you really need to trust them. And you know, things aren't always going to be the way you think they are. So you really got to dial back down, sit down, and you know, put your heads together and come up with ideas. And that's really, I'd say that's the hardest, as running a business. That's your hardest thing, because I don't care who you are, you really can't do everything on your own. It's the
Mhm.
true thing. I mean, if you try to do everything on your own, you're just going to be stable. But if you really want to grow, you really need to get minds. You need to get minds together and really just, you know, be proactive with each other, and the sky's the limit at that point.
Yeah, something that I also noticed early on in your business career, Phil, that made me a customer. Number one, the signs were just, I mean, simplicity, right, Phil?
Simple.
Sometimes we can overcomplicate, or people do, at how really simple business can be. So you just shared a very simple strategy, marketing strategy, that has literally launched your whole standing up on a corner whole. Now, you guys were pioneers,
Yeah,
right, in that. And I
yeah,
remember having conversations with Justin about that when people started copying, right?
yeah,
But the
exactly.
two of you were literally some of the first people in this town to do that, right? But it was so simple, and that's probably how I found you. Just the most simple business concepts sometimes can be the most rewarding.
Absolutely, yeah. Why go out and spend tens of thousands of dollars in marketing at the time, especially during recession? But yeah, we just kept it simple, and it's funny how we got the numbers too. It's a funny story. So our number is 702-277 all zeros. Computer slow, call the O. That was our whole slogan. We were gonna, you know, me and my brother made up. And my brother at the time was working at Verizon Wireless, and he you know, he'd issue phone numbers to people, you know, when they sign up for a service, and that number came up to some older woman. She was like in her 80s, and he called me up. He goes, you're never gonna believe this. He's like, I got a number that was 277 all zeros that I just issued to this woman. I said, give me her name and her number. I said, I want to call her and see if she'll give us that number for the business. And I'll just like either swap numbers or see if I can issue another one to her. So he's like, he starts laughing at me. He's like, okay. So I got her name and number and I called her up. And Madeline, her name was. And I said, hey, Madeline. I was like, my twin brother just gave you a phone number. I was like, I'm starting a business, a computer repair business. I said, would you mind if I got that number to help simplify my business, to keep it simple? And she was so caring. She's like, absolutely, you can have it, no problem. So we got the number, and you know, I was like, that's a sign, you know, like this is truly like the everything's working together, you know, because at the time when you're holding a sign on the side of the corner, if you see like 678 4239, it's not as appealing,
Right.
nor, you know, they don't have enough time. I always told everybody you have a 5 to 6 second window when somebody's driving by. Like, there's a science to all this. Like, me and my brother, we broke it down into a science. And like, as far as holding that sign, people aren't going to remember a lot. They're just going to see the word computer and repair and then a simple number. So I really tried to brand that, to really get it so that's where the customers see it really fast, and then they remember it in their head. And I would say, like I said, to this day, even 18 years later, people still tell me, say, "Hey, I still remember your sign and that number. It's in my phone." So it's just more or less
Yeah.
that branding technique. But we really got lucky with that number, Madeline. It's a shout out to you.
Right. Yes. There's that's part of the framework. Like you said, that's a really important thing, is that the number is memorable enough, being memorable, right, Phil? And I love Doctors of Technology, and you guys did a lot of, or you still probably the robes, the doctor's
Yeah.
robes, and because I was watching as your branding was developing, and I
Yep.
thought, oh, okay, so then you guys, your website, you had yourself in the doctor's coats and the stethoscopes. And
Yep.
tell me about that. Tell me about the
So
development of the whole image of Doctors of
yeah.
Technology that you were
So
also
so
working on.
So originally, when I started the business, the name of the business was Advanced PC Solutions, and then so it was Advanced PC Solutions LLC, and then our slogan was "We are the doctors of the technology world." That's always I created that slogan back in college, because I was always saying, like, because I've always wanted to be a doctor. I love diagnosing, I love analyzing. It's like but it's not on the human body, but more on the electronic end, and I always had doctors of the technology world. So we branded Advanced PC Solutions, that was our name. But answering the phone consistently when you're saying Advanced PC Solutions, how may I help you? It just rolls off your mouth a little too much. Like, sounds like people would always say, "Who is this?" So I winded up. I sat down and at my desk, and I said, "How can I change this?" And I said, "You know what? Doctors of the technology world." I was like, "How about Doctors of Technology is the name?" And then my brother came up with the idea. I was like, "Yeah, you can wear your lab coats and a stethoscope, and really have the brand." Because of course my brother's a marketing genius,
Hmm.
and so I said, "You're right." So then we winded up. I swear I've been wearing this shirt for the last 18 years. This is, if you ever see me on the streets, this is all I'm ever wearing, is this red shirt with the
It's
logo.
about the only thing I've ever
This is
seen
all
you
I ever.
in all the years I've known you.
If you ever see me wearing another thing of clothes, you probably wouldn't recognize me. Um, but yeah, so we wound up coming up with the name Doctors of Technology, and then yeah, that's really how we came up with the name. I was just sitting there and just really analyzing. But like I said, my love for diagnosing, like that's what I'm really good at. And that's what I teach my team to be, because when you bring your system in to be fixed, it's all about diagnosing, like you need to have that. It's not just more or less fixing it, but having an understanding before that system's dropped off in your head to know what the problem is.
And so, starting during both of us started businesses during the economic downturn, which, as you said, it didn't seem to affect you very much because people still
No.
had computers and they needed their.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a never-ending cycle, right?
Yeah.
You have electronic devices, especially computers. Even back then, I mean, your computers are really important. I mean, now
Yeah.
it's a whole nother level of
Whole
importance.
different, a complete
But
different ballgame.
so here you are, you're in an economic downturn, or all of us are in one, but you are thriving in
Absolutely.
business.
Yep.
And yet, we all know that developing a business is not the easiest thing to do in the world. I know you also you started to build a team, and then you added another location. So now
Yep.
here you are a few years in. Maybe you could talk about expansion and when did you get to the point where you decided that you wanted to grow your team and then open up another location?
Yeah. So it was around 2000. I think it was about like about 3, 4 years into it is when I said, like, I really sat down and decided, okay, we were on Sunset and Eastern for about 4 years. And then I said, you know what, let's go towards the west side. So really locations, of course, a primary thing of opening any type of business, location, location, location. We're taught that in college and school. So more or less, I found a place next to Walmart, next to Sally's Beauty Supplies on Spring Mountain and Rainbow, and I opened up that store, and then expanded the team. So we had both locations, and then we got more vehicles, and then basically, so we were going to more of the customers' homes, businesses, and then they can come to either store. So it was kind of really just to connect everything together so the customers could choose, but more or less we could service them, and so this way people don't have to drive all around town for it. And it had its challenges, of course, running two stores, because you really have to find, finding a good team in business is the hardest thing you'll ever encounter, because you need to find trust. You need to find, dedicated team members that, first of all, want to be there, that want to service, that have the same vision as you, that really want to, not just to fix computers, but to establish a relationship with their customers that they trust. You want that customer to look at you and say, wow, these guys know what they're doing and I trust them. So I feel most businesses around here nowadays aren't like that. Like I walk into a lot of service industries, I don't feel like I get that trust factor. I don't feel like I'm basically getting the bang, the most of my buck for it. And that's where I try to teach all my employees that, what, it's about the quality of work and about, having that customer trust you when you're talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, if they trust you, of course, they'll go out of their way and tell people. But if they don't trust you, they'll go out of their way and tell a lot more people. So, of course, you need to have that trust factor. That's the number one. So I sit there, we'd have our team meetings once a week, and I would tell everybody, the good things of business, the bad things, of course, that were happening. Some bad things, of course, but because, of course, you can't make everybody happy. But you know what? I'll bend over backwards to try to make you happy, And a lot of businesses aren't like that. So it's more or less just, keeping that steady flow and having that teamwork together with everybody.
Yeah, I always was really impressed, Phil, with you and your brother's focus on customer service. I mean, you were very committed to running a business, which is, I mean, that's the beginning, is the enthusiasm and the we don't stop. I remember Justin used to always, and you say that to this day, right? So you had the core. I feel that your entrepreneurial drive, which is you can't stop, right? So
No.
I mean, that's what drives an entrepreneur. That's what makes some people such superior entrepreneurs, in my opinion. It's not necessarily skill level or intelligence. There's just a deep drive. Well, although it does help to be really smart like you and your brother are and very good at what you do. I mean, obviously you can't have a shoddy. You guys do a great job with your service, and you always have. You had a lot of focus, but that drive that the two of you had, I could see it at 21 years old, right? When you were that age, that you had that. And it seems like you've continued to foster that. And that's infectious. When you were talking about team building and getting the right people around you. I know you've had long-term clients like me and people who I've referred to you. I know a lot of people in town who've been doing business with you for years.
Yeah.
So but the desire, and then your team members also, you've had some of your team members for me, like Jeremy. I don't know how many years he's been, many
17
years.
Yeah, 17 years now.
So you truly are walking the walk that you're talking about here, which is, yes, the trust amongst the team and getting people that are not just committed to the job, right? The job, they get paid for the job they do, but they have to buy in on your vision of with the company, right?
Correct.
I've seen the reason why they're sticking around for all this time is because they've bought into you.
Correct.
That's what they've been, your vision of what the company represents, and they feel comfortable. They believe in that.
Yeah, and it is infectious, I'll tell you that. But it's all about the consistency. It truly is. Like for over 10 years, I never took a day off. I ran between both stores, making sure, everything is always up to date, always on par. Inventories being, customers are being taken care of, and the employees too. But more or less, 10 years, imagine 10 years straight of working 7 days a week. I mean, and not stopping. You're consistently going. And it's funny. It's like, there's no such thing as a 9 to 5. It's more or less, you wake up, then you go to bed. And in between that, you basically,
Right.
what did you accomplish, And then whatever you didn't accomplish, you will get accomplished the next day. Like I have a calendar that I write down my hours, and then I write down the stuff that I need to get done every hour by hour. And then when I don't get done, I cross off and then move that to the next day. And I would do that for years and years and years and years. And then I had this list of things. And at the end of the year, I evaluate what I didn't get done. And I circle those and primarily focus on that for the whole year. So it's more or less always consistent. It's consistency, consistency, consistency. And I would say for the last 18 years of me running this business, there was competitors on every single corner. There was a computer repair shop. Even 10 years ago, during the recessions, a lot of service companies were being built, and I would say, wow, 90% of all my competitors, which was a lot of them were my employees too, are now out of business.
Mm-hmm.
They're all out of business, and I think I think it's the fact of just, not caring about their clientele, their customers. They care about making money, which, of course, owning a business, you need to make money to fund everything, but it's not about the money. It's about making people happy. And if you could find that as a goal, you'll be a successful business owner. No matter what, it's the consistency of making people happy.
And it's one thing being an employee also, Phil, and a whole nother thing when you're running the business. So these people that you've had that have worked for you and they've said, oh, and again, people who work with us are critically important, right?
Absolutely.
And so I don't want to diminish the value of people who work with a company like yours and like mine. But there's a big difference between being the person that has to figure all this out as the owner of the business. And I think sometimes people are employees and they think, oh, well, how hard could this be? This guy figured out how to do it, right? But they don't want to work 7 days a week for years and years and years. Like you talk, very few people have that type of drive. Yeah. So when they're done working for you during the day, they go home and they go on with their lives, and they don't have no idea that you're working all night until 10, 11, 12, and then you get up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and you start that process all over again for years. I know what you're talking about. They don't understand that that's what's happening. They just think, oh, well, no big deal. I'll start up a business. If it was as easy as that, everyone would run a successful business. Exactly. Right, Phil?
Absolutely.
There's a lot that goes into it, and you are willing to pay the price. It's a price that you have to pay in order to have a successful business.
Yeah, I've always had that drive since I was a kid. When I start something, I finish it. And it's really hard to find, a lot of people that do that, when you really start something from the beginning and then finish it. And then not even just finish it, but finish it to the best of your ability. There's one thing of cutting corners and stuff, but you more or less, but like I said, and that's where I love to train. I'm a great teacher when it comes to, with my employees, to really have them understand, as far as a whole breakdown of what needs to be done from point A to point B.
Yeah, the way you train the people who work with you is also very important. And another question I had for you, Phil, is, so you've had many years in business. You've really, as you mentioned, you've outlasted a lot of your competitors. When you create that type of longevity running a business, there is a lot of cycles and ebbs and flows in that. So how do you adapt? So for instance, me thinking back to 2007, it seems like computers have become a lot more disposable now as compared to back then, where people's, you got your computer fixed, where now the pricing of computers has really dropped, it seems, dramatically. And so you might think that, okay, a guy like you, people are not so much into getting their computers repaired now, as they'll say, oh, all right, well, I'll just go buy another computer when things go wrong. And so you've had to make adaptations, I would imagine, for that, the shifts in the market. Could you tell us about how you manage those types of things?
Yeah, and that's the thing. In any business, you have to adapt. There's any business, whether you're a locksmith, you're any type of service industry, or of any type of business, whether it's digital marketing as well, any type of business you're doing, it's never just, okay, this is what I do for a living, and this is what we're going to focus on, and that's how it's going to be. Well, the sad stories, things always change. There's always variables in business. And even with the computer industry, like with ours, It's used to be viruses back then. All viruses, you have an issue with your system, you bring it in, we come out to you, take care of a virus. Nowadays, there's no viruses out there. It's completely irrelevant to the systems nowadays. Everybody's computer problems is usually it's too slow, or program issues, or operating system issues. Those are like the three biggest things. And a lot of that stuff nowadays is being taken, or you can actually get a lot of it online resources. And the way that operating systems are so much more secure now, it's irrelevant now. So you really need to figure out, okay, well, if our services aren't, being the way they used to be, we need to focus on it. We got to kind of pivot the business. So more or less now we focus on sales, computer sales, of course, because just like you were saying before, if my computer's running really, really slow, or if I'm having issues, they're not that expensive nowadays. I'll just go buy another one. So of course, then I basically had to pivot the business into, selling more product, and then also having the service on top of that product, and then dealing with a lot more of doing a lot more of my business clients. Ooh, I lost you there.
Oh, I'm here. Go ahead, Phil. Keep talking.
But more or less, yeah, it's that direction you need to find when you really, when you have a good thing going. Don't cross your T's and dot your I's yet, because something's going to happen, and that's where a really effective business owner is going to sit there and say, okay, you know what, I got to make a change. You'll never ever close the door or say, you know what, this isn't working out anymore, I got to find a new job. You got to figure something out. You got to sit down, put your head to the table, get your team together, and say, okay, what's working, what's not working, and really just focus on the things that are working, and then really open up more doors, open up a ton more doors, and just keep re-innovating the wheel. That wheel is just going to keep spinning, and if you keep re-innovating it and find different paths it can go down, the possibilities are endless. I mean, you truly just need to keep, like I said, it's that consistency factor. It truly is all about consistency. Every day that you wake up before you go to bed, what did you get done during that day? And you got to keep focusing on all those tactics on there. And there really is so many different ways to approach things nowadays. It's not just more or less, like I said, as far as fixing and selling computers now, it's, marketing of it, websites. So it's like you really got to dig into deeper depths of just technology, because technology is this world. It truly drives this whole world. Everything we do revolves around technology. I mean, you see social media is technology, our TVs, our everything, our cars now. Our car is just one giant computer. So it's just more or less we got to figure out different ways to implement into all these different features of life.
Yes, and you talked about adaption and that being such a critical thing for us staying in business, Phil. I mean, absolutely. I understand exactly what you're saying. Being able to roll with the punches, right? That is a really, really fundamental thing that you see in entrepreneurs who are able to have longevity along with consistency. You keep talking about consistency, and that is a very underrated term. If you just keep doing business and you're committed to doing it and you do the little things day by day, but then you have to be flexible enough. If you're consistent just doing the same things, you can go out of business too, right, Phil? You have to be also flexible enough to know when it's time to make adjustments. As I had talked about, you've had to figure out different ways to keep your business relevant when there's these shifts in technology. So it's an interesting combination in entrepreneurship of you have to be kind of stubborn enough to be consistent and not give up, because if you don't have that streak in you, it's very difficult to keep going, because it's not a bed of roses always being an entrepreneur. But at the same time, you got to be flexible enough to roll with the punches. And I see that in the way that I've watched you and your business evolve through the years.
Yeah, innovation. That's it. You need to be innovative. Like I said, just so you said, it's not going to be roses every day. Some days you just have, where it's like sometimes the phone doesn't ring. And it's like also too, I feel like with the economy too, the way in small businesses, I feel like there's waves. There's truly waves. There's waves where even if I'm getting my hair cut, the gentleman cuts my hair, I'll be like, it's been really, really slow. And it's like, same with me. It's like I feel in Las Vegas, there's a kind of wave. It goes up and down, up and
Mm-hmm.
down. And so there's no never consistent way of doing, I should say like a service industry. There's never just a day where it's just, oh, it's nonstop. Phones ringing. We're so busy. We can't, like I need to hire a staff of 100 people. It's, we're going to be, it's too crazy. It's not that way. It's like, so you got to wake up and smell the roses that when it isn't that way, you got your employees, they have families, they have to feed their family. How do you got to step back and figure out, okay, back to the drawing board, how could I get our voice out there and help the community, get to show the community, you know, who we are, where we are, and what we're doing. Because you got to figure, there's over 2 to 3 million people in Las Vegas now.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a computer. Everyone has a problem. But how do you get your voice out there? So that's the biggest hurdle, I would say.
Yeah, the ebb and flow. You said the ebb and flow of business is essentially what you were saying, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that's the hardest part. I think with owning a business, I would say that when you have your ups and downs, when you're down, how do you figure out to get back up? I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, just great. A lot of great advice. And again, this is someone, when you talk about entrepreneurship, I love to hear advice from people like Phil who have done it, right? There's no theory of business here. I mean, I've literally watched this man and his brother, not who is older, by the way. Were you born first or was he born first?
I'm older by 5 minutes.
So he and his younger brother, I have literally watched them from scratch actually build. No theory here, right? This is right development, providing a service, running a team, paying the rent every month. I mean, this is not, Phil is not talking about the theory of business. He is talking about running a business for 18 years. And there is so much impact, I think, with people out there, Phil, that, there is the sort of like the glamorous life of entrepreneurship that is sometimes portrayed in the social media, right? It's a big thing that you'll see online in particular a lot. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is, hey, you know the real deal, right?
Yep.
This is how it really works. And I just have so much admiration for what you've done as a businessman. And in the future, where are you headed with this company? What is there any other goals that you want to achieve with Doctors of Technology?
Biggest is expansion. Like I want to be when I was 18, I thought of this as I was going to be all over the West Coast. Like Doctors of Technology was going to be the brand to compete with like Geek Squad. Like we have the brains, we have the passion and the drive. And I thought for sure that we would be all up the coast, franchised out, and just completely blown up. But reality sets in. You really need a lot of funding. It's not cheap. It's not cheap by any means far. And like I was saying before, it's really getting that voice out to let people know who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. And really the hurdle is just getting, the customers to understand that and finding them. So it's more or less, my goal is, of course, I want to be another, Arizona, the other California, and really just grow this business. So really, we can I can be remote too as well, and actually run this place. But it's more or less just getting. I really want to help with the community. More or less, I do a lot of the trainings at the library, and I would do that all the time. And then more or less, I got kind of pushed back a bit because we got so busy in the store. And I just really want to help more, educate more with the business, as opposed to just, like I said, it's not all about just making money, money, money. It's more or less just, educating the community and really helping. And hey, my door's always open. I love to talk to people. Like teaching is my number one passion besides fixing computers, of course. I love teaching. So it's like I really want to just, help others. That's what I really want to do.
Yeah, and becoming a pillar of the community, that's one of the great things is that you've literally grown up running this business, right, Phil?
Absolutely.
So you're connected to the Las Vegas community. You've had thousands of clients. over this time, and they know you. You're a part. This is the one of the things I think that's so underrated about entrepreneurship and running a business is that it's not just, as you mentioned, yes, making money. We got to pay our bills. Most entrepreneurs aren't really driven by that. They're driven by creating value. But in the course of doing that, you become a part of the fabric of the community, a leader, a business leader in the community. And so I love the stuff that you're doing with the libraries. And again, hey, just great work, Phil. And I know you're in it for the long haul, and I see you being, especially, that's one of the great things if you can get started as young as he has gotten started as an entrepreneur, is that you have, okay, it takes 20 years to really get your sea legs as an entrepreneur, and you're still only 40 years old, right? 39 years old. So now you've got a lot of years to really still grow and become what you want. You've just learned, you just had a 20-year almost internship, right? And entrepreneur and becoming, and you still have a lot of life left in order to be able to accomplish some of these larger goals.
That's it. Yeah.
So how can our audience out there, some of them are Las Vegas based, how can they get a hold of you if they'd like to stop by and have Doctors of Technologies help them with their computer needs?
Yeah. We have our store, Sunset and Eastern. It's right on the corner there next to the Wells Fargo, right behind McDonald's. But I would say, hey, visit our website. It's doctorsoftechnology.com. And like I said, the number 702-277-0000. And I'm there pretty much every single day except for Sunday. I do take a day off now, so that's.
So what do you do with yourself now after so many years of working? Do you actually really take the day off and not do anything?
Oh yeah, my day off consists of taking care of the house. Getting yard work, trimming the rose bushes, relaxing. And
you
then,
disconnect. So you do disconnect from your business that day.
Yeah. Aviation's my second hobby. I love flying up there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's great to hear, right, Phil? That again, all that hard work position you to be able to get to a point where you don't have to work 7 days a week, and you can enjoy the fruits of your labor through all these years.
Absolutely, yeah. There's sometimes you need a little R&R, to recover from what your mental state, because it's like it's ups and downs, but when you have your ups, it feels so amazing.
Yes, well, again,
but you have to relax. You have to. From now that I'm getting a little bit older, I'm realizing that you need to. If I could tell myself a couple words from when I was younger, for like 20 years ago, the words of advice I would say was slow down.
It's so hard though when you're 21.
Exactly.
And hormones,
a million things going on, and you just this. And you're like,
I agree.
If I could say, how would I say slow down? But that's the best advice I could say is really just slow down and just focus. It's not a marathon.
Yeah, and you just have so much energy when you're young like that, Phil.
Exactly.
And what I guess you've learned is that you get more efficient with age.
Absolutely.
Because you don't have that, even at 40. I mean, you still got a lot of energy at 40, but it's not the same as being 21.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you get smarter,
yep.
right?
Yep. You get wiser. You understand more. You relate to. Being your older self, like, because you've seen more, like, I can't wait till when I'm 60 and what my next advice would be to say when I was 40, what I would say,
Right. Well, I'm closer to that, and I would say to my 40-year-old self that take time to smell the roses. Right, which is what you're doing in your life now, which is taking that day off. Really, don't ignore right, because again, entrepreneurs are just driven, focused people. You have to be to get things done.
Absolutely.
But there's a life out there that goes along with all that, and I know. For some people, they just never enjoy, right? They're just on to the next goal, on to the next goal, it's just inherent in how we're wired. And so, yes, if I could give my 40 or my 30, you're 39. years old now, 40. Yeah, that would be the advice that I would give, is just take some time to smell the roses like you're doing now by
Yeah.
taking that day off every week.
Yeah. That's it. And keep your
Yeah. Right. Well, thanks again, Phil. Again, it's been just amazing to watch you on your journey. I know you're going to continue to be successful, and I've been talking to you about doing this interview for a long time. And when I came and saw you the other day, I just knew the time is here. The world needs to learn more, or our audience here at prconnectionsradio.com needs to learn more about doctors and technology and the phenomenal story of your growth. And yeah, just keep up the great work, Phil.
Guy, I really appreciate you having me on. I really do.
Yeah, and thank all of you for tuning into this podcast. We have a host of podcasts over at prconnectionsradio.com for your enjoyment. I believe we have 13 different podcasts that we are airing, diverse topics. We have got sports, we've got mental health, we've so many other business shows. And so when you really want to take the time to get some great information, you can always visit us at prconnectionsradio.com. We are also streaming all of these podcasts now on the audio side on platforms such as Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcast. I think we've got about 17 platforms now where you can listen to our audio streams as well. And of course, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and most of the social media sites. So hope you have a fantastic day. Go out there and make it happen, whatever it is that you're doing. See you soon.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.